This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are very excited to be joined by Giuliana Forlano of Absurdity Today, joining us via Skype. For those of you who check out the YouTube video after the show, you can see her in action. Giuliana, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Danielle. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. For people who haven't had the pleasure of checking out Absurdity Today and, enjoying your videos, which come to our email box, and we love that, why don't you tell listeners a little bit about it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Absurdity Today is a 2-minute news roundup in the sort of style of Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update, but with a real progressive and maybe even beyond progressive take and spin. The kind of things where, jokes that are independent news related, we get a little humor as opposed to having to get your news straight from reading the sources yourself. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense, and it's one of my earliest ideas with even the show we used to do before starting this one is, if you can make people laugh, then they're also listening. And as much as, they're listening, as much as comedy does take a spin on it, it also helps people stay informed of issues and makes it a little bit more digestible so that, people can handle learning about the news, learning about what's going on in the political arena without constantly having to feel they're so serious about it. I think it's really important. I think it's the way to reach the younger generation and get them involved in many of the important issues today. So I really commend you for taking that head on.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. I really like producing the show. It's my point of producing that show is to do a couple of things. Entertain, of course, also educate a little bit. I don't always cover exactly what's on the news and in the news cycle. In fact, I might make reference to the IRS thing in this week's episode, but I'm not covering it. You've seen it. You know about it. You've heard about it. I'm covering something that's happening about hydraulic fracturing in Pennsylvania, which is actually some strange good news has happened in that area. So I'm covering a little bit of that. Things that maybe we aren't going to see, but you have to be educated in order to get the references that I'm talking about. You have to sort of be up with the news. So it's basically for people who are following the news, who know what's going on, who might not be able to follow everything, and who maybe are getting a little bit exhausted by the end of the week with the constant sort of, like this week was a perfect example, just tons and tons of scandals. It was scandals and scandalicious everywhere.
Yes, we've called it Scandalgate or Gategate just because it never stops. It keeps going on and on and on, and it feels like a soap opera.
I have scandal fatigue. I really do. Like exhausted. And it's the logical outcome that everything is now a scandal as opposed to news, because the news cycle just makes everything seem more, in order to grab attention on the headlines and whatever, people try to make everything into something that's lascivious or scandalous or something. So things that used to maybe be just news are now scandals.
Yes, while real important stories like what you were just talking about, Pennsylvania and fracking, go uncovered because ad executives don't think it's going to get enough eyes on a channel. And, thank goodness for independent media and comedian turned activist like, Lee Camp does a very similar thing. We love Lee Camp, who, takes important stories that people aren't paying attention to, adds a little humor, but makes it digestible. Your videos are very similar, and I know our audience is familiar with Lee Camp, so just to let you know how important and how much you need to check out Giuliana.
Yes.
So what do you
actually live a few blocks from each other, and we're performing this summer on some shows. There's a show, if you're in New York City, called the Laughing Liberally Lab, and it's basically where political comedians come and get together and do a show stand-up that is specifically risky, things that maybe they're not going to be so happy if you say them at the mainstream comedy clubs, but they're still funny and tackling these topics that need to be talked about. And Lee is one of the main players on the show with me, so that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that.
It makes me wish I was in New York. I say that so honestly and sincerely because, your comedy, Lee's comedy, I know John Fugelsang's often a part of Laughing Liberally. It's a 2-hour train ride from D.C. to New York, and it may be worth it at some point just to come up there and see that show.
Sometimes it's a 2-hour train ride from Brooklyn into Manhattan, so, it's not. I think your train is better than ours.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. This ridiculous Scandalgate, I don't want to make the same comparison of everything goes back to the Bush administration. They did it too, or what they did was worse. But what do you take of this level of hypocrisy of, criticizing the administration or making the media pay attention to the very same thing that was done in the previous administration and done on such a grander scale? How do we find comedy in that?
As a comedian, my brain is set to pick up on things like hypocrisy, absurdity, and I think I may have blown a gasket this past week because there was so much. Even the sexual assault officer who was prevention officer who was, or he's being investigated for sexual assault himself. I mean, I was like, well, I guess my job here is done because these headlines are writing themselves as giant jokes. I almost don't even have to write the punchline. I just have to say, this.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
Yes, dude, this.
You don't need me. This is crazy enough. You figured it out without me having to point out the idiosyncrasies of why it's insane. I mean, I've had a theory, and I'm sure other people have the same theory, but I have a theory that it's almost like the right is I'm rubber, you're glue type of thing. We have said, hey, you are doing this, and we said that during the Bush administration. Now that there's a little tiny, if you go back over, I should probably make a list, but if you go back over what they've been doing throughout all of Obama's presidency, they're basically taking the things that we accused them of. And I hate to use the terms of us and them, but that they were rightfully called out for, and applying that back to liberals, applying that back to Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or anyone sort of on the progressive side. They're basically taking the things, it's called projection. I used to be a psychotherapist. So they're just basically projecting all the things that they did onto us. And then they have that loud media refrain, what with owning Fox News and all the mainstream media sort of all being in bed together. And so they just pound that away into the minds of the American people who, if they're going to follow politics, they need to consume news somehow. And, not everyone has time to go through the web and really try to figure out what's going on. So like you said, I think independent media where you can find a voice that you trust is really, really important. And that's why, shows like yours are so super important to what's happening.
Well, thank you very much. I agree wholeheartedly about the I'm rubber, you're glue. I mean, they do it constantly with, overreach of power, obstruction. They accuse, look at the whole economic debate. They accuse Obama of being unwilling to negotiate, unwilling to compromise, as they continuously refuse to even talk to the president or refuse to go through regular order in the Senate. It's like a playground game. I mean, that's the level of intellect that we're dealing with.
I mean, I feel like it's all orchestrated. There's no way they could be like, you did it, without having thought that through, and it's working for them. People, when you think scandal or when you think 9/11, now you're almost not thinking 9/11. I mean, we in New York, we think 9/11, we think the buildings, et cetera, we think that huge tragedy. And now they've got it so that when we're talking about 9/11, we're thinking, oh, Benghazi, oh, the second 9/11, which is, it's incredible. The mind control, control people's thoughts, control the people.
Yeah.
That's why I think comedy is so important, because what you're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, I can't speak for all comedians, but not what I'm trying to do, but almost what comedy will do is it cracks that through line of thought. It cracks it and it reroutes it in a way that kind of leaves just a little space for constructive thinking, or a little space for questioning, and it kind of stuns you into being awake if it's done well. And so that's what we're trying to strive for at Absurdity Today.
Well, and I think you guys are doing an awesome job. I also noticed that in your email, I hope that you're a professor of media ethics. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, I teach at Brooklyn College. I also teach at Hofstra University.
What would you make, as far as media ethics, of this Major Garrett story of being fed a fake source of emails, as well as, I don't know if you've heard about it, the Heritage Foundation coming out and getting caught sending a letter to Republicans saying, don't legislate, just focus on the scandals, keep the media focused on these scandals. What are the ethical implications of these kind of stories going on?
Well, I teach broadcast journalism ethics, and the first question everyone always says is, oh, are there any? I haven't heard that one before. But there are supposed to be, right? And when I don't know if we've ever had a perfect system, but there are supposed to be these ethical standards. Unfortunately, they're the kind of standards that we agree to, or that you're supposed to agree to, much like doctors are supposed to agree to the Hippocratic Oath. But as they continually break that oath, not all of them, but many of them, or some of them at least, we don't fire them, unless it's like this gross misconduct. Whereas in broadcast journalism, if you break the Society for Professional Journalists, code of ethics, you don't get punished. There's no feed. There's nothing. We have an entire Fox News system that is basically not.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Fox News and media ethics, I don't think belong in the same sentence. Juliana,
Fox News does this exact perfect thing. They do, like, Bill O'Reilly is like everybody's alcoholic uncle. He's like, I'm not doing it. You're the one who's doing it, And he's loud, and he's scary, and he's big, and he makes you think like, well, sometimes I feel like, we as Americans, we can relate to that guy because he's loud and he reminds me of somebody's uncle, and he probably knows, and I'm not going to talk to him because maybe he'll throw the shoe at me or something,
Yeah, but we still leave Thanksgiving dinner thinking, man, my uncle's freaking crazy,
Yeah. Good point.
But yeah, I don't understand how they continue to be allowed to call themselves news, except that I know that they just have trademarked the phrase.
Right.
It's astounding. Juliana, where can people go to check out all things Absurdity Today and follow along? And how do they subscribe to that awesome email alert I get that tells me there's a new Absurdity Today to watch?
Yes, thank you. Well, you could send an email to absurditytoday.com, or excuse me, absurditytoday@gmail.com, saying that you would like to be subscribed to the mailing list. That's one thing that you could do. You could go to www.absurditytoday.com. That is the YouTube page, and you can subscribe there and watch there and send your friends. I don't think people really know that people who are on YouTube sometimes actually make money via views. So I'm always asking people to please watch and please send to your friends, because I don't want to have to, I don't want to charge, or I don't want to do that kind of thing. So I don't think, if people don't recognize how to support a show, it's by watching it on YouTube, at least for mine.
And I hope our listeners who view our YouTube page take that and heed that that information as well. Click it a few times.
Yeah, send it. Put it on your Facebook page, please.
Exactly.
Tell your friends that you've enjoyed this or whatever, or send it to. In my case, send it to people that you don't like. It's jokes that they probably will hate, and you can stir up stir up some animosity toward the left if you want.
I think that's a fabulous idea. Juliana, thank you so much for joining us and bringing a little humor to all of this ridiculous scandal that we've all been dealing with this week. It's like therapy after a very horrible, abusive week from our media. So just thank you so much, and I really appreciate you taking time for us today.
Thanks, Danielle.
Have a great day. Juliana Forlano, check it out at absurditytoday.com. You have to check out the videos. They're awesome. I know we have a lot of great comedians that we support, and that's because life needs comedy.
As John Fugelsang always quotes, when telling them the truth, make them laugh or they'll kill you.
Exactly. So go and check it out. All the links, of course, will be up at talkingleft.com after the show. So you're listening to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and we will be right back with more, so stick around.
Hey, it's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and this is Talking Left.
It's our last errand today, Jimmy. Just need to pick up some light bulbs.
Whoa, there's so many. Did Grandma tell you which ones to buy?
No, but check out the label on this package. It'll help us find the right bulbs.
Does it really matter?
Well, sure. The new light bulbs use a lot less energy, so we save money on our electric bill by using an energy-saving incandescent, CFL, or LED.
How about this bulb?
Let's see. We need to replace the 60-watt bulbs in our bedside lamps. That one is 800 lumens, so it should do the trick.
I've never heard of lumens.
Lumens tell us how bright the light is. The more lumens, the brighter the bulb.
You know, Grandpa, you're a pretty bright guy.
Yeah, you're pretty smart yourself, Jimmy.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. That's EnergySavers.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Energy.
You may be hearing about people having trouble making mortgage payments and risking losing their homes. Many of them just aren't aware of the options that can prevent foreclosure. There are many options available to homeowners, such as repayment and forbearance plans, loan modifications, and even refinancing. Where does someone go for help? They should talk directly with their lender or a qualified HUD-approved counseling agency. Both can provide helpful information without charging a fee. According to PMI Mortgage Insurance Company, it's not a good idea to pay for services that you can get for free from a lender or a qualified nonprofit counseling agency. To learn more, visit homesafepmi.com or call HUD at 1-800-569-4287 for a counseling agency near you. That's 1-800-569-4287. This message is brought to you by PMI, supporting sustainable home ownership that strengthens communities.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at WEAC Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the ARC. The ARC is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The ARC is also home to the ARC Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the ARC, so stop by and see them. The ARC, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the ARC's website, www.thearcdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The ARC, part of Southeast D.C.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hi, this is Tom Harmon.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Schuster of Take Action News.
I'm Brad Friedman of BradBlog.com.
Hi, I'm cartoonist and agent provocateur P.S. Mueller.
This is Nicole Bell of CrooksandLiars.com, and this is...
You're listening to
and watching
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Jacob Dean.
With Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Great presidents aren't born, they are made. We've got to push people. They don't jump out in front of a parade if there's not a parade there. That is political suicide. The parade, metaphorically, already has to be in the streets with the picket signs saying, we need progressive talk in Portland, or we need marriage equality in Washington, or we need marijuana legalization in Colorado, you know, whatever.
Trans-Canada Pipeline. Stop the pipeline.
We have to push for our positions because they're not just going to out of thin air.
FilterFreeRadio.com.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Big thanks to Giuliano Forlano. That was awesome. She's hilarious.
She is darn funny.
Yeah, we have to have
Bill
her
O'Reilly
back
bit.
again.
Oh, stealing that. No. I will just go watch it over there.
Yes, absurditytoday.com. Be sure to check it out.
I also put up the YouTube. It's youtube.com/user/ironic
News report.
News reports.
Yes, just to make it clear for people who don't understand comedy or irony. There was no misstating that. So, something else that happened this week that didn't get much attention, and I think it's possibly a big deal, although I don't want to get my hopes up, is Gina McCarthy. She is Obama's nominee to head the EPA. She has passed round one and has been approved by the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee.
Yeah, but it's 10-8, was it not?
Yes, and guess what party 10 of those votes stand
10
on?
Democrats, 8 Republicans.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if this is one of Harry's 3.
Yeah, he didn't specify.
You know, whether or not, whether he's going to pull the nuclear option when it comes to confirmations. Remember, he said 3.
Yeah.
3.
I mean, we have just seen this Senate, the Republicans in the Senate, block every appointment, every nominee that Obama has put up for pretty much anything. The only reason they didn't with, John Brennan and...
they did with John Brennan.
Yes, but they eventually
filibustered.
gave in.
Yeah, but the only person I think really was John Kerry they really didn't put up a fight for against.
Yeah, and that makes it's puzzling.
It was Brennan. Of course, Hagel. Wow. That was incredible.
But I think the only reason...
The ones under the radar, the judges, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, when you have a senator saying, well, we'll just get rid of 4 of the seats.
Yeah.
That'll solve everything. We don't have to confirm anyone. We'll just have a bunch of Republicans. It works great for me right now as a Republican senator.
Right. And although Ms. McCarthy has passed this first round of Senate confirmation, she now has to go and be approved by the entire Senate. And this is where Republican obstructionism really comes in. Already, the ranking Republican on this committee, David Vitter, yes, the David Vitter, we won't name what he's known for, but he has essentially provided a list to Miss McCarthy of all the things that he'd like to complain about the EPA.
Right. It's interesting. It used to be that we confirm a person, we look at that person and their experiences and if they had skeletons in their closet or whatever it may be. Are you qualified to do this position? Now they put the entire agency on trial because when it comes right down to it, they don't like this agency. This is one of the ones that, I don't know if he remembered it or not, that Rick Perry wanted to get rid of. Education,
yeah.
This may have been oops, but it was actually EPA. But they do not like the EPA, especially because we were talking about they want to. The EPA can now regulate carbon, which they're trying to overturn.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
They see the EPA is in the way of business, in the way of profits, in the way of all that, in the way of really they're keeping us from drinking dirty water, et cetera.
Right. So we will see what the Senate Republicans do to try and block Ms. McCarthy, in addition to this vague list of demands that Senator Vitter has already put forward. It's a moving goalpost. It's saying, I'm creating this list of questions with no defined appropriate response so that whatever answer you give me is not good enough.
And the number of questions is outrageous.
Yes.
It's like 1,000.
Yes.
And these are probably multi-part questions.
Yes.
And
she has still answered all of them, so she still deserves to be confirmed and to become the next leader of our EPA.
It's interesting. I've seen some ads out there on remember, we're in the D.C. area.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing pro and con, and so it's amazing. It really is. We have election cycles just constantly now.
Yeah. Well, for how we should be being involved in our politics, I think that's a good thing. For how money is spent to disrupt the news cycle and try and control the message about every single person in every single office in every single agency, I don't think that's a good thing. So, I think we do need to be involved in politics year round.
Ad said that she should be approved by a majority vote without a filibuster, I'd be for the ad.
I agree. That's all we're asking for, is to just have the full vote.
That'd be cool.
That's it.
That'd be new. It'd be different.
Let's
try something different this time.
So we'll definitely need to stay tuned and pay attention to Gina McCarthy's EPA hearing and call senators. Make sure she gets confirmed, because this is an agency that is so important right now.
It would be nice to have an agency head for if they're going to be headed to the Supreme Court.
Yes. Yes.
So.
We're going to get into that in just a few minutes. We didn't tease yet about that case. We'll talk to you about it next. So you're listening to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and we will be right back with our Trustbusters segment of the week. Hang on.
What is this? What's going on?
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Whenever one of our cities gets a star turn as host of some super sparkly event, such as a national political gathering or a Super Bowl, its first move is to tidy up by having the police sweep homeless people into jail, out of town, or under some rug. But the tidy-uppers of Houston, Texas aren't waiting for a world-class event to rationalize going after homeless down-and-outers. They've preemptively outlawed the crime of dumpster diving. In March, James Kelly, a 44-year-old Navy veteran, was passing through Houston on his way to connect with family in California. Homeless, destitute, and hungry, he chose to check out the dining delicacies in a trash bin near City Hall. Spotted by police, Kelly was promptly charged with, quote, disturbing the contents of a garbage can in the Central Business District. Seriously, I was just basically looking for something to eat, he told the Houston Chronicle. But unbeknownst to both this indigent tourist and the great majority of Houston's generally generous citizens, an ordinance dating way back to 1942 says that, quote, molesting garbage containers is illegal. Also, in 2012, city officials made it a crime for any group to hand out food to the needy in the downtown area without first getting a permit. It's a cold use of legal authority to chase the homeless away to, well, anywhere else. Such laws are part of an effort throughout the country to criminalize what some call homeless behavior. And sure enough, when hungry, the behavioral tendency of a homeless human is to seek a bite of nourishment, often in such dining spots as dumpsters. The homeless behavior that Houston has outlawed then is eating. This is Jim Hightower saying, when Houstonians learned of Kelly's rude experience, many reached out to help him get through his hard times. Now they need to reach out to local politicos and get the city's hard treatment of homeless people changed.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this. You can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, the Workers' Independent News Service. I'm Jesse Russell. The world's largest retailer has once again rejected a safety plan intended to help improve working conditions in Bangladesh. The announcement that Walmart would be rejecting the proposal comes only days after H&M, Marks & Spencer, and Benetton said they'd embrace the proposal. The safety plan has also been accepted by the world's second largest retailer, Carrefour. Under the proposal, the companies agreed to inspect plants producing their products and to assist in covering some of the cost of necessary safety upgrades. The plan was first drafted after a factory fire in November took the lives of 112 factory workers. At that time, companies had rejected the plan, but last month's factory collapse in the country that took more than 1,000 worker lives has brought new attention to the proposal. Walmart had denied that any of their clothing contractors operated out of the factory that collapsed. but documents provided to the New York Times by the Bangladesh Center for Worker Solidarity says otherwise. The company pointed out that the documents showed a Walmart contractor operating out of the country a year ago, but that they didn't have a relationship with the factory when the tragedy struck. On Tuesday, Walmart said it would be putting in its own safety measures in factories where its contractors operate, but has been unwilling to publicly commit to help pay for any necessary upgrades to ensure safety at the factories. So far, only European companies and one Canadian company have signed on to the agreement. Gap and Target have also said they reject the safety plan. SEIU Secretary-Treasurer says the nation must seize the moment regarding immigration reform. Doug Cunningham reports.
SEIU Secretary-Treasurer Eliseo Medina says we need to seize this political moment that makes comprehensive immigration reform possible. Medina says reform that ends the exploitation and living in the shadows for millions of undocumented immigrants is good for the economy and also good for both American and immigrant workers.
We cannot fix the economy for American workers as long as we have 11 million people in that situation, because then employers use them to drive wages down for everybody. And so what we need is a system so that every worker in this country has the same rights and can join together with their fellow workers to fight together for better wages. So the moment now, and I do believe it is a moment that we haven't had for a long time, is that we can allow these 11 million people to legalize their status and be able to have a path to citizenship so that they are just like the rest of us and have the same rights, obligations, responsibilities.
Medina says immigration reform must also make sure that immigrants who come here in the future can do so in a legal process with the full protection of U.S. labor laws.
You've been listening to WIN, the Workers' Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We try every week to bring you a Trustbusters segment, and we swear one day we will populate the website trustbusters.org.
Trust us.
Yes, trust us. We've just got a lot going on.
We do, but that's a good thing.
It is a good
We
thing.
enjoy it. Lots going on.
One of the obvious giant companies that needs to be broken up, that needs to be focused on, are the oil companies. Now, this is a particularly hard one because a lot of these are international companies and oil is traded on a world market. But it's something we need to keep pushing for, and it's relevant to Gina McCarthy being confirmed in the EPA to help regulate that.
And on top of it, you say, well, this is more difficult because they're international. You could look at it as a glass is half full, saying we have a lot of partners in other countries that may be able to assist us in this because they are also experiencing the negative repercussions of the consolidation of ownership of energy.
I think you're right on the money there, Shane, and I'm going to get to that in 1 second. What brought us to this story, to want to talk about this, because it is an obvious one. All of us know that oil companies need to be broken up. Another piece of information that some of us may have missed this week is that major groups, big business, oil companies, coal companies, like Peabody Energy, the world's largest coal company,
polluters,
and yes, polluters, and Republican lawmakers have now petitioned the Supreme Court asking them to overturn EPA regulations, asking them to overrule their own decision, which found that the EPA is authorized to regulate carbon pollution.
And then the extra special kind of Congress people.
Yes.
Like Michelle Bachmann and Marsha Blackburn.
And Rick Perry and Ken Cuccinelli.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the extreme of the right. These are these when you say, the GOP has gone to the right, these people are to the right of them.
Right. It almost makes me wonder if they're using now as an opportunity because they have cover from all these other scandals going on. So now they're quietly slipping this petition, this request to the Supreme Court.
You can't do anything quietly to the Supreme Court if reporters are doing their jobs. Of course,
Right.
we've been illustrating how they're not, but we're definitely going to cover this here.
Thank goodness Think Progress is doing their job as usual. But essentially, they're just asking the Supreme Court to reverse rulings that help enforce the Clean Water Act, that help keep the Clean Air Act in place, and they want them to undo all those regulations that protect our environment, all in the name of profit. Because they're saying they don't believe in climate science. They don't believe that carbon plays a role in this.
Remember, the GOP, from when they first went a little nuts starting in the beginning of the 80s, they have a multi-pronged approach. They have a multi-level approach, local and federal, but they'll go at it through all three prongs of government. If they can't legislate it, then they'll put a president in who will do it by executive order. If they don't have that, they will go through the courts. They will do anything possible because they only need to win once.
Yep.
To win once. If you get the Supreme Court to say EPA, you can't do that, that's as good as getting rid of the EPA.
Right. And so this is somewhat frustrating because of how difficult it is to regulate oil, how difficult it is to think about breaking up these companies.
Heck, tar sands aren't even regulated as oil.
Exactly. But it turns out that officials in the European Union are not backing down so easily. And this is a good example of trustbusters. This is how it's done. European Commission officials have raided the offices of major oil companies in the EU and are investigating, and in my opinion will likely find, strictly my opinion, charges of collusion from these companies working together to set prices and keep any competitors out of the market.
That's against the law.
That's against the law, big time.
And the thing is that sometimes we think they're colluding because there's only 3 or 4 of them.
Right.
And you have a tit for tat situation where if you don't really have to compete, they raise it by $1, well, you raise it by $1, or we're all trading on the same market. But if they have actual evidence of emails going back and forth, the airlines got in big trouble for this decades ago. That is a violation of the law.
Yes.
Directly. It's not just it just happened to be that way.
Similar to our antitrust, Sherman Antitrust Act here, the European Union has its own antitrust rules, and they prohibit cartels and restrictive business practices or abuses of a dominant market position. So just because you have a monopoly, because maybe it's expensive, there's high barriers to enter the market, and you're not actively trying to keep competitors out, if you are abusing your position as a majority of as holding majority of the market, that is also against European rules. And they're doing something about it. See, hey, FTC, this is how it's done.
DOJ.
We can do it. DOJ. We spend so much time talking about these companies that need to be broken up. It's cool to see a story where somebody's actually fighting back against their power.
Because first you need information.
Right.
Because, like you said, you can't, just because you have a monopoly position doesn't make it against the law. It's abusing that position. That's the same as on our laws. But in order to get evidence of that abuse, you have to actually have an investigation. Them going in for these documents is an investigation. I think that we need some investigations here.
I would love to see it happen. And, that's what we're trying to bring to your attention with our Trustbusters segment every week. We have just a few more minutes in store. We're going to come back with some wonderful hypocrisy that we just couldn't go a week without talking about. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, and you won't want to miss this last segment. Stick around.
It's just implied, but we all know what's going on in this thought bubble. The kids don't know. We do.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from BradBlog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of BradBlog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK, and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
You're listening to and watching
Filter-Free Radio.
Filter-Free Radio.
Filter-Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Jacob Dean.
With Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
It's a redefining of the issue of not just the fact that, oh, it's my fault, I need to go buy a Prius. I should get an electric car. No, it's my fault for not stopping car culture as a whole. We don't need cars. I should have far greater technology right now than the internal combustion engine. It's 100-year-old technology.
Where is my jetpack?
Exactly. But you get the point. The issue is far larger than just recycling or driving a hybrid. It's stopping the manufacturing of these systems, these industries. They need to stop. We will never have national health care guaranteed as a right for all as long as we have insurance companies that make money off of us. So the insurance companies need to go away. We don't need insurance companies. We need health care. It's the whole health insurance reform. What a lie that is, because we need health care reform. And the list goes on. So it's redefining the issue and redefining the argument.
FilterFreeRadio.com.
Would you like to secure stable employment, affordable, high-quality child care, or an opportunity to serve your community through meaningful volunteer and internship experiences? If so, UPO is the place for you. Hello, I'm Andrea Thomas, Vice President of Administration and Chief of Staff for UPO. As the Community Action Agency for Washington, D.C., UPO has proudly served the residents of Washington for the past 50 years. Annually, we impact the lives of nearly 100,000 Washingtonians, 100,000 people advancing their education, securing employment, maintaining housing stability, and investing in their communities through volunteerism. Our vision is a Washington of thriving communities and self-sufficient residents. To learn more about our services and how you can partner with us or donate, visit us at www.upo.org. UPO, where we are uniting people with opportunities.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nutjobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, and you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Tim Cormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
Hey! Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiosstations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiosstations.com. Be sure to like Left-Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiosstations.com. United we stand.
SoFloRadio.com remains on the air with free archives thanks to the support of our listeners. Help keep us on the air by clicking the donate button on SoFloRadio.com. And thank you for your generous support.
I don't want to see your face around here. The time isn't right for you. I said the time isn't right.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to the last few minutes here on Talking Left. Thank you for checking us out today wherever you're listening. SoFlo Radio, We Act Radio, 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Or thank you if you're checking out the podcast over on iTunes or subscribing to the YouTube channel. We appreciate it wherever you are.
Yeah.
And
we've done so many different shows this week.
Yes.
Which is great. Like we were talking about, we get a lot of time, but we love doing it. But the thing is, we have this show, we have our day show that we work on, that everyone knows about. We don't, and then we also do the top of the hour show, which everyone should be checking out at Progressive Voices.
Yes,
and of course all the fine programming there that everyone knows and loves. And then helping out Hal. So so all these topics, we're like, did we cover that, or did it cover the top? We can't remember which ones we've covered, and we just kind of.
Right.
You're like, well, let's talk about this next time. I'm like, didn't we already do that? No, that was on that show.
It's been very difficult to differentiate. So if we repeated ourselves at all today, we sincerely apologize. Or if we plugged something and then didn't end up talking about
we
it.
take the same topics generally, and when we do the topics that no one else has been doing, or at least isn't getting a lot of.
We try.
Right. But then the main ones, we want to put our own spin on them. Everybody likes to put their own spin on them. So as we do those, we're like, wait a minute. Didn't we? No, Shane, we didn't. Okay.
Yes, it has been a little...
that and all the scandals are just blurring together for me.
Yes. It's Gategate. It's Gategate.
It's Gategate.
Yeah, that's there may be legitimate faults, legitimate issues in any one of these stories. And
I disagree. I think
saying
in Benghazi there's none.
Okay.
Zero, zip, zilch.
There's still the issue that Republicans didn't fund embassy security.
But that's not a scandal. That's a screw-up.
I agree with you.
And fix it.
I'm saying...
The best response to the Benghazi investigation is for President Obama to draft up a bill and send it up to Congress saying to just restore the funding to what it was beforehand, saying, if you really want to fix this, here you go.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want me to come in front, if you want one of my people to come in front of Congress, I'm going to send my chief of staff and they will testify about anything you want. Just tell us ahead of time what you want. We will give you absolutely everything.
And
enough.
What's your solution to the IRS scandal?
The IRS scandal has to be investigated. The thing is everyone's talking about the fact that they use certain key terms. Those are completely reasonable key terms to be using.
Yes.
The question, therefore, is what was the motivation? What was the motivation? And that's tough. You have to get inside of somebody's mind. So they'll have to investigate, contemporaneous writings, conversations, and things like that to see what their motivation was. If it was just to cut down on work and saying, you know what, chances are this is political action, but Meals on Wheels isn't, I think it's completely reasonable. And also we must look at the fact that every single one of those was approved.
Yes.
They were approved.
Which I think is the bigger scandal, personally.
Right. Now, they just want to, keep droning this on, look into it, report to us, and let's fix it if there's a problem.
Yep.
Period. On the AP thing, if you want to fix that, change the law. Pass a law that says you can't just subpoena these records. You have to get a warrant, which means a judge has to sign it. Meaning there's an impartial third party who's actually going to protect the interests of the individuals. Because if you're going to a telephone company and saying, I want these records, the telephone company says, fine, I have no privacy interest in this. And it's just done and no one knows about it. The people who have the privacy interest are not party to this to fight it.
Yes.
Because they don't know about it and they find out about it afterwards. And what are you going to do once something has been let out into the public or been given to the government? You can't get it back.
Right.
You can't unring that bell. So a judge would be there for that. Pass the law.
And all they have to do, pass the Free Flow of Information Act.
That's all you got to do.
It still has the national security so-called carve-outs that, hey, we can gripe about, but at least it provides additional protection and make sure a judge has to sign off on that.
But we're talking about actually solving problems. What they're talking about is what's in that heritage letter you wrote.
Yes. Blame. And there was a lot of that recently. In fact, so much.
The strangest source.
So much it kept you up till 3 a.m.
It did.
Yes. Please, Shane, tell us what kept you up until 3 a.m. this week.
Yelling. Well, not really yelling because it was late. I didn't want to wake people up, so instead I wrote my anger out. The thing is that there are certain people who I understand are political opponents of the Democrats, progressives, liberals, whatever group you want to say. And they can have their opinion and they can express it and they have credibility. Then there are those on Fox News who have zero credibility whatsoever for the plain reason that they are the leftovers. They are Fox News and the Heritage Foundation, the retirement home for the Republican Party and for most specifically the Bush administration. When you have people like Karl Rove and Dana Perino and Don Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney talking about scandal as if they were the cleanest thing ever, we never did any. And they're comparing. I mean, they're talking about the worst light possible, the lies about Benghazi, saying this is terrible. This is terrible. Listen to some of these quotes. This is my favorite. We have to start with the head honcho, our de facto president, before.
I watched the Benghazi thing with great interest, Sean. I think it's one of the worst incidences, frankly, that I can recall in my career. Well, they lied. They claimed it was because of a demonstration video, so they wouldn't have to admit that it was really all about their incompetence. that the State Department and the White House NSC ignored repeated warnings from the CIA about the threat. They ignored messages from their own people on the ground that they needed more security. Indeed, they reduced what was already there. And the administration either had no forces ready to respond to an attack, which should have been anticipated on the anniversary of 9/11, or they refused to deploy them when our people asked for help.
Wow. It almost sounds like he's talking about himself there. Ignored warnings of an attack, sent resources into the wrong direction, refused to deploy the resources that we've had, and it was on 9/11. What does that remind me of?
But what makes me more angry is it's the worst tragedy that he has in memory. This is a guy who said 9/11 every single time he wanted to do anything for 8 years.
Yes.
Now it's completely flushed from his memory like it never happened.
This is a guy who shot his friend in the face.
Yeah. This is insulting, though. If you had a loved one, a close loved one, or who died on 9/11, and your leader at that time thinks that what's going on in Benghazi is worse than that, I'd like you to give him a call or give his library or his office a call and say, what are you thinking?
How about the entire troops of firefighters that died because they went into that building trying to save
first
people?
Responders.
Yeah. And the fact that people are still getting sick from all the toxic elements in that collapse, in the building collapse from
clean up.
Yeah. Ugh. It's just scary that man is,
Yeah.
still
Donald Rumsfeld,
raising
who
his
said there were
ugly
weapons
head.
of mass destruction.
It was a terrible tragedy, and people lost their lives, and the way it's been handled since then has compounded the problem because the first rule of something like that is to gather the facts and then inform the American people.
Tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Don't we deserve the truth? Don't we?
Indeed. Well, in our system, we have to. And
gather the facts and tell them the truth, and don't compound tragedies. Oh,
wow.
Wait. No, you did that.
Wow. Revisionist history. They just pretend like everything they've done didn't matter. And it's not the excusing what somebody did because the Bush administration did it too. It's just the audacity of these actual individuals coming out and making these comments. It's the fact that these specific people who orchestrated some of the biggest schemes in our nation's history have the gall to sit here and say this to the American people. Republicans are not listening to Fox.
Yeah, and the thing is then you have the spokesmodel for that's probably not, Hottie McHalf-Truth, Dana Perino. The one, tell me when the Bush administration or anyone in it took responsibility for anything ever.
Wasn't their
Ever.
favorite, and I have to say, I've heard this in relation to the AP scandal, I believe. It may have been the IRS. Mistakes were made. That was the way anything was ever dealt with for the Bush administration. The passive mistakes were made.
Well, that was a big Watergate also.
Yeah.
Turn of phrase. It's very passive, not saying I made a mistake or this is what I did wrong or what this person who works for me who I'm responsible did. But this is incredible.
God, how irresponsible for President Obama to keep to have somebody that the Bush administration appointed, like
it's a 5-year
like
term.
Brennan.
It's a 5-year term.
Right. So that's why it's preposterous. It doesn't matter who appointed him. It matters that it happened on their watch, and they're trying to sweep it under the rug.
They blamed 9/11 on Clinton, by the way.
Yes. And let's not even get into Katrina.
Oh, yeah. And then the guy who threw somebody who won an election for governor in jail, the guy who fired attorneys for not prosecuting phony election fraud cases, who politicized the Department of Justice, said that they should not be politicizing the IRS.
We'd have every major liberal newspaper in America calling for an investigation, hinting at impeachment. It'd be leading the evening news. We'd have every group that had liberal or progressive tendencies demanding answers and marching on the White House, and leaders of Congress, Democrats in Congress, demanding to have answers. I mean, it'd be a nightmare at the Bush White House had this been done on our watch. The use of the tax system to go after political enemies, to go against your political opponents, is chilling to any American, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. It was bad when Richard Nixon did it. It was bad when Lyndon Johnson did it. It would be bad if some bureaucrat in Cincinnati did it.
It would be bad if the Bush administration... Oh, wait, they did do it.
Yeah, and it was also the Justice Department, too.
They used the court system.
Right.
The court system, the justice system, firing. So it would be bad if you politicized part of the executive... Oh, yeah.
Wait, yes, this makes me think of the common expression of when somebody's cheating on you, they're the first to accuse you of cheating. Because these people, these are the very people that knew about the lies and scandals and atrocities that went on during the Bush administration. So they're just assuming that every president does this, every administration does this, and therefore Obama must be guilty of everything that they're talking about. I have no problem with people on the right complaining about this. I'd like a little less of it, but those four individuals, of all people, need to keep their mouths shut.
I'm trying to compare the two. We're just saying those are people that we have no credibility.
Exactly. So
zero.
Hopefully that didn't leave too bad of a taste in everybody's mouth for the end of the show, but we can't miss out on that much hypocrisy. So I just want to thank, again, all of our great guests, Adam Eidinger of Occupy Monsanto, Juliana Forlano of Absurdity Today, Hal Sparks of the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide. Thanks to Nicole Sandler of Radio or Not, Alex Lawson and Kimon Freeman of We Act Radio, George Rodriguez of SoFlo Radio, Rocky Mountain Mike for our intro music. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to listening. Thanks to you for listening to the show. We'll see you guys next week. Stay tuned for Mark Levine.